When he got elected, they concocted a scheme to stay away from the gun issue, lull gun owners to sleep, and play us for fools in 2012.
And more importantly, Mr. Attorney General, your oversight of an agency, of a department, of individual leaders in that department that have not been held accountable.
Well, with all due respect, and I mean this with great respect, the notion that this was an operation set up to do something to impinge upon the Second Amendment rights of my fellow citizens is absurd.
The clerk will report.
23 ayes, 17 noes.
The ayes have it, and a contempt report is reported to the House. Without objection, so ordered. The committee stands adjourned.
Party line vote in one Republican-controlled House committee today to hold Attorney General Eric Holder in contempt of Congress. The Speaker of the House, John Boehner, says a vote in the full House on that matter will be held next week. It's all about a conspiracy theory marinated on the right, essentially alone in right-wing media, that the Fast and Furious gun-running program in the Southwest was somehow a conspiracy to take away Second Amendment rights by upsetting people about gun violence. Joining us now is Bob Herbert, former columnist with the New York Times. He's now a Senior Distinguished Fellow at the Demos Center for Public Policy and Advocacy. Bob, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here, although I have to tell you, Rachel, it is not fair to have to comment on this story in public, because once you immerse yourself in this issue, it's like being on acid. It is unbelievably crazy.
Let me say that is true of a lot of gun issues. Gun issues I've always described as the great ungoogleable. Like it's not actually possible to get rational, unbiased, real information about what's going on with gun laws, particularly about gun politics in this country, because when you Google it, you are so deep into conspiracy theory land that you can get no real information. This Fast and Furious, I think, is a subset of that. But yet, a party line, 100% of Republicans voting on it today, voting for it, voting to hold their Attorney General in contempt over this. Is this the fringe becoming mainstream, or is there something else?
The Republican Party has hooked up with the fringe a long time ago. The Republican Party, it's a mainstream party in the sense that we only have two parties, but it is not mainstream if you're thinking about the way most Americans think about most important issues. But what's important to look at here is, what are senators like, what are people like Issa and Grassley doing, riding the wave of this guy Vanderbilt, for example. Vanderbilt comes up with something that is just utter madness, and then the big shots in the Republican Party just pounce on it, and then ultimately it leads them to a contempt citation against the Attorney General of the United States. I mean, that is just madness. I mean, we need to understand, one, this was not a Holder operation, this sting, which was a terrible sting and ended, tragically and that sort of thing. But Holder ordered an end to this. The people in charge of the sting were either fired or reassigned. There is an IG investigation in the Justice Department, and Congress is investigating. I don't have any problem with that at all. But the idea that this has something to do with the Obama administration wanting to undermine Second Amendment rights is just madness of the highest order. For people like me, for example, who are very much in favor of enforcing gun control laws, and who would like gun control laws strengthened, who would like to make it more difficult for people to access guns, Obama has been a terrible disappointment. The Brady campaign gave him an F for his performance in terms of gun control. So it is just madness to talk about him undermining the Second Amendment. He's done nothing of the sort.
But in terms of real policy concerns and the real responsibilities of governing, I was focused today on that too, on the issue that, if you really are interested in gun policy and you're not just interested in conspiracies about this, the Brady campaign has given the Obama administration an F. They've done nothing to increase gun control at all, whether or not you think that is a good idea. But Is it true that a rationally based administration ends up being constrained to the point where they can do zero on a policy issue? Because even when they do zero, that's construed as some sort of act of aggression.
I don't think so. I think that, whether it was the Obama administration or if it was another Democratic administration, I believe they could have done more on gun control and a number of other issues. I think that the forces who are opposed to some of the things that the Republican Party stands for should be fighting harder against the Republican Party, should be fighting back harder on some of these issues. And if you take gun control, for example, I mean, this is like an unbelievably important issue. The Republicans talk about being concerned about this agent who was killed, and you're right to be concerned about that. But 100,000 Americans are shot every year, and more than 30,000 die, and these are a result of homicides, suicides, and gun accidents. Your viewers ought to understand that if they watch your show, during the course of this show, 3 Americans will die from gunshot wounds, because 3 Americans die from gunshot wounds every hour. So this is like an incredibly important issue. So if the Republicans are concerned about what happens when guns get into the wrong hands, they should pay attention to the 100,000 Americans who are affected by this.
But any discussion of how to deal with that in policy is so backwards through the telescope
Also,
that doing nothing is construed as secretly plotting to do too much.
Exactly. And not only that, what they really want to do is they want to undermine the legitimacy of the people who do not agree with them. So they want to undermine the legitimacy of Eric Holder, of Barack Obama, and ultimately the Democratic Party.
Well, lining up with the break their windows militia blogger guys are a good way to assert your own credibility.
Yeah.
This is just an incredible story. Bob Herbert, former columnist at the New York Times, now at Demos. Bob, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right.